Want to welcome everybody back to this month's Together We Can action items. And this month, our country celebrates Women's History Month. It all started back in 1978 at a little known Women's History Week in Sonoma County, California, and then went national in 1980 when President Jimmy Carter proclaimed March a national week to celebrate women. In 1987, March became the official month and a full month-long celebration. We come off the heels of African American History Month, or Black History Month, where we celebrated Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman. And we'll continue this month focusing on so many of the women of color who have shaped our country and, quite frankly, who have not received the recognition in our history books. We'll profile Ella Baker, known by many as the mother of the civil rights movement. She was such a mentor and influencer of our most prominent figures of the civil rights movement, having worked with W.E.B. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall, Dr. King, mentored Rosa Parks and so many. And mentoring was a lot of what she did. Her nickname was Fundi, F-U-N-D-I, a Swahili word meaning a person who teaches a craft to the next generation. And after having been a prominent leader in the NAACP, as well as Dr. King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference, she founded SNCC, an acronym standing for Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, where she implemented her leadership style of a bottom-up leadership, not a top-down. She felt like that the group leadership would create leaders, and she didn't feel that a singular leader should be creating the movement. And with her founding of SNCC, she galvanized students from all over the country and was a prominent, powerful figure of movement in this country, which helped secure the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s. We'll also profile Patsy Mink. She was a third-generation Japanese American, and Congresswoman Mink, she served 24 years, 12 terms in Congress. She was constantly told no, and she constantly showed everybody yes. After graduating valedictorian, just as Ella Baker did, Ms. Mink wanted to go to medical school, and she applied to 12 or 20, depending on which historian you listen to, but it really doesn't matter because every medical school rejected her because she was a woman. So she went to law school thinking that would help her with a craft to change the plight of women. And she then started realizing that even though she got into law school, which she got in on a technicality that had the admissions office really known who she was, they probably would not have accepted her. But she got in and then had to fight to take the Hawaiian bar examination because of some arcane rules. She changed that law. And then upon graduation and getting her law license, no law firms would hire her. So she started her own firm and then ran for Congress and became the first woman of color to become a congresswoman, first Asian American congresswoman. And she was instrumental in so many major pieces of legislation, including the Early Childhood Education Act. And what most prominently known for is she co-authored Title IX, and as you all know, made sure that women and young women were treated equally in higher education. She was such a prominent figure that Title IX was officially renamed in 2002 the Patsy T. Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. She was the first East Asian American woman to seek the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party in 1972, the same year Title IX passed. She was posthumously recognized with the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Obama and was also prominently recognized by President Bush. Dolores Huerta, She is 90 years old and still an amazing leader. And I encourage all of you to seek and search any opportunity to see her speak and her wisdom. She was known as the Dragon Lady. She was given that nickname because of her fierce negotiating style, although when listening to her, that's not the name that you would think of. She is just a person of amazing gravitas and carries herself in that manner. She was labor leader and civil rights activist. She was a co-founder of the National Farm Workers Association along with Cesar Chavez. And she was the one who negotiated rights for so many of those farm workers, and of course helped organize the Delano grape strike in 1965, which was a monumental sea change for workers' rights. She coined the phrase "Si se puede," yes you can, which President Obama then adopted and gave her credit for with his "Yes we can" motto that he used in his campaign. She was recognized also with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the first Latina inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. And in addition to standing up for the rights of women, she fought and continues to fight against racism. And she argues strongly that we are one human family, that we are all descendants of the human race, which all began in Africa. And, once we learn that we may have different cultures and different ethnic backgrounds and so forth, but that we're all one human family, that we can rid ourselves of racism. She also was standing next to Attorney General Robert Kennedy on that famous podium just before he was assassinated in 1968. He recognized her for all of her great work. We'll also study some statistics from the Catalyst Group, nonprofit organization that took a look at the numbers in regards to women of color in the United States, and going through and a figure or a statistic that folks will, I think many will be surprised by. As many of us know, women are a majority in our country. They represent over 51% of the population. But as we get to the year of 2060, women of color will be the majority of women in this country. That is a fact. And the Catalyst Group goes through and talks about all of the challenges that still face women of color. And there is so much work to be done in this regard. And they do a wonderful job of taking a look at the education rate, the leadership in businesses for women of color, the pay gap for women of color. And please take some time to visit those statistics. And then Kimberly Crenshaw, who is a remarkable activist, a lawyer, law school professor. She is also the originator of the theory of intersectionality, where she really takes a hard look at the overlapping systems of oppression and discrimination faced by women of color, in particular African Americans, when they on one road face all of the discrimination and oppression of African Americans, and then on another road face the discrimination that has affected women for so long. And that intersectionality and what that really means, and take an opportunity to listen to her TED Talk on this important subject. We'll also focus the most recently departed Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Obviously, she was our first Jewish female on the United States Supreme Court, our second woman on the United States Supreme Court, and was such an important figure for not only issues involving women, but also of those of race. And our In Their Shoes segment, Sean Brown, who is one of the great leaders in Texas and growing nationally as well. She is vice president and associate general counsel of Kimberly-Clark, and a leader in so many wonderful organizations. And she talks about, despite her status that she has earned in life, the microaggressions that she still faces as a woman of color in this country of ours. But a remarkable collection of women for us to learn from and be thankful for in our country. We hope that you enjoy this month's monthly action items and that you all continue to remain safe and healthy.